If you look back at some photos and videos of the Titanic, some eagle-eyed viewers might notice something quite interesting. This short clip shows us the ship, the Titanic, being towed out of port by Tugs before its fateful journey across the Atlantic Ocean. But the Tugs names have been scratched out, resulting in this weird fluttering effect. But why? Today, you'll be discovering why the Titanic was photoshopped and how this sparked one of the earliest and biggest conspiracy theories of the 20th century. And I'm going to start right now. Looking back at the clip, you can clearly see that the names have been intentionally scratched out from every single tug in the video. But why? Who would intentionally remove names from some random tugboats helping the Titanic out of port? Well, actually, it's one of the earliest Photoshop attempts designed to trick the public. The footage you see here is not really the Titanic. The film was made in June of 1911 when the Titanic was still in its early stages of being fitted out. The ship in the film is actually the sister ship, the Olympic, and was actually shot in New York as the ocean liner departed at the start of her very first eastbound voyage. The Tugs are actually New York Harbor boats, helping to maneuver the ship out of the White Star Line pier into the Hudson River. Hours and days after the fateful Titanic sinking, newspapers and newsreel companies were in huge demand for footage of the Titanic, scrambling around to find any photos or videos they could. But there was one big problem. No one really actually took the time to film the Titanic before it left port in Southampton. The issue was that the Titanic wasn't actually that famous before her sinking, being the second ship in her class after the Olympic. The Olympic and the Titanic were so similar in appearance, externally looking pretty much identical apart from the name, that the Olympic ocean liner could easily be swapped out for the Titanic, and only very well-informed people would be able to spot the difference. So by the time that the Titanic was actually finished, a lot of newspaper companies and newsreel companies just simply recycled their old footage and photos of the Titanic, saving them time and costs. Now this footage of the Olympic was considered just good enough to pass as the Titanic. But there was one serious problem. Because the names of the tugs were above the port of registry, and the port of registry happened to be New York, this would be fairly obvious giveaway as to the location of the footage. A location the Titanic, of course, never reached. The names of the harbour tugs were also often familiar to frequent ocean travellers, and especially of those who lived and worked in the ports. And American tugs had very different naming conventions versus British ones. So, what did the newspapers and newsreel companies do? Frame by frame, they scratched out the names of the tugs to try and pass this footage off as the Titanic. Very sneaky, and also having lasting impacts. Now, because of this odd anomaly surrounding the footage and the obvious photoshopping, a lot of people thought something nefarious was going on. Now, I'm not going to be diving into too much detail about the conspiracy theory surrounding the Titanic, as this is a little bit more of a photography and editing channel, not a conspiracy theory channel. But because of the obvious attempt to trick the public, this sparked one of the biggest and earliest conspiracy theories in the 20th century. Many people that actually believe in this Titanic conspiracy theory think that the Titanic never actually sunk at all, and actually it was the Olympic ship that was intentionally sunk for insurance money. Plus, the managing director of the White Star Line company at the time in 1912, and the owner of both the Olympic and the Titanic, Bruce Ismay, apparently had a few business enemies which happened to be on the Titanic when it sunk. Interesting. So as you can see, the art of photoshopping goes back a lot further than what a lot of people might think. And it also shows you how photoshopping true events can have lasting impacts on society for years to come. Well, hopefully you found this video a little bit interesting. Once I found out the Titanic was actually photoshopped, or at least rendered in a way to deceive the public, I was incredibly interested and I had to make a video on this topic. So if you're interested in topics like this, early photoshopping or early photography milestones, make sure to go ahead and subscribe to this channel. And of course, because this is a conspiracy theory video, or at least a little bit, make sure to write down in the comments, do you believe in the conspiracy theory? I'm not sure I do, but it's a very interesting one to look up on, and there's a lot of information on YouTube. So make sure if you are interested in the conspiracy theory of the Titanic, make sure to go ahead and actually search up on YouTube. There's a lot more to uncover than what I've talked about today. I've been James for Photo Fever, and I'll catch you guys next time.